First flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Health or High Water. I'm so excited for you guys. I got some amazing guests with me today that I've recently met and just had to have them on, right away. But first, I want to thank all of our sponsors, U Clothing. Thank you guys so much. I got some amazing sweatshirts, shirts. It's the most amazing motivational wear that you can get out there. The link is in our bio. Also, thank you for Kalevala Supplements. You guys are awesome. Gene Planet, you guys have been hooking us up with amazing genetic test. Can't do this without you. Lala Guven Coffee. This is Brett Steele. I don't know if I'm slaughtering it. I'm so sorry. Check out our link. Our link below. And I think I've got everybody. Thank you for subscribing, and sharing. Guys, welcome to Health or High Water. How you guys doing today?
Great, Trip. Thanks for having us.
Good.
Awesome. Well, I'll give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves, a little backstory for each of you guys. You guys both have interesting stories, and you guys are doing some really amazing things with health and wellness. So I'm happy to have you guys on.
Oh, it's great to be here. Very cool.
Thanks.
Your story first, man. You talked a little bit about that this morning, and it was kind of intense.
Well, okay. So so my name is Pat Marquis, and with Mike, we've got our company Neuro Training. But my background, after wrestling, playing rugby in college, back in Indiana, OIU, but I was in the military for 20 years. So I retired in 2011, and most of that time I was in Special Forces. So saw and experienced a lot of cool and interesting stuff and some not so cool stuff. But when I got out in 2011, I had decided to kind of get into the health and fitness world. There's a long story to it, but started off basically working with wounded, ill, and injured soldiers off of Fort Carson. They're down around Colorado Springs. Basically trying to help get them out of pain and get them moving better, because most of them were on their way out of the military, and so we had to try to do whatever we could to help them feel better. It's a little tough to think about your transition to the civilian world when your back hurts all the time, right?
Right. That'd be hard, man,
Yeah, and so I got a deep educate, along with personal training and exercise science degree and stuff like that. I got a deep education in neurology, basically, and how the nervous system affects everything. And so that's the lens by which I've applied all of my training with folks since then.
Well, that's an incredible story, man. And Mike?
Yeah, I like to just listen to what he's done and kind of keep pushing that forward. No, since I was a peewee, I was in wrestling, and my brother had started wrestling with our high school when he was a sophomore, and so wrestling just kind of came naturally to me, and that's what got me into other sports, and all these athletic opportunities for me is what got me to better understand a little bit more of how the body and the brain work. And so I walked into an office where Pat works, and I was getting a massage from one of the therapists there at the time, and I was having a hamstring issue, and they just said, well, we're going to assess you before we do anything. We assess. I'm like, well, this is interesting. I haven't seen a lot of pre-assessments before you do the training. And sure enough, I walk down and back, and the chiro kind of leans over to the massage therapist and says, ask him how many concussions he's had that have gone untreated. And I'm like, I'm in here for a hamstring. Like, how does he know? Like, I just walked down and back. How do they know? And it tripped my curiosity. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. And right away, I was like, I need to figure out what these guys know so that I can be better at my job. And I've had the opportunity for the last decade to be the manager of coach education for USA Wrestling. So it's really exciting to see our sport's growing, especially in the women's sector, and to be able to provide the resources to the coaches and the athletes to create the best environment is really our coach education focus. Pat and the folks at Neuro Athlete, where he's currently working now, the full-time gig, right? We're still bringing neuro training in as our part-time. Those folks teach and educate after the assessment, which gives you then the motivation, because now you've got good habits and you realize I feel better. And so for me, going to the Naval Academy, wrestling Division I had a chance to try out for the Olympics in '96. And then I started coaching, and I was able to coach up to the Division I level, got to coach a guy at the NCAA Division I championships in the finals.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, it's exciting.
It's very cool.
And if you don't have the tools as a coach or as a mentor or as a trainer to be able to put yourself and your athletes, your clients in the right environment, how do you keep folks around? So, curiosity piece. As soon as I saw what they were doing, I was like, these are people I need to be around more. And they were very open too. That's what I love. They were like, come and just sit in the office, watch us train people, watch us help people, and tell us what you think. And I've spent the last 6 years with Pat and Grove and Mary at Neuro Athlete to make sure they're doing things. And then when Pat and I decided to take it off to Neuro Training, it was like, let's see if we can scale this to help people on a bigger scale and give them the tools. I'm sitting here doing some mobility drills as we're talking. My ankles are cracking, and it's because I know that the better alignment my body is, the better my energy is going to be, and the better I can be. So it's exciting.
Well, I absolutely love that. So can you guys give me a little backstory about Neuro Training, what it is, what you guys apply to your guys'
Sure.
clients, and what's the outcome usually?
So what we do is build online brain-based training programs for health and performance. The reason we talk about neuro training, right, and a lot of people at first go, brain-based training, it must be like word games or,
Play Wordle right now?
right, yeah. And all that stuff's good for some things, right? But what people don't realize is your brain and body are intimately connected. There really is no, this is just cognitive training and this is just physical training. We tell people we got 3 major concepts you have to understand. Number one, your brain's number one job is survival, not performance. Right? Get some chow, get to tomorrow. That is what your brain is really concerned with. Now, that's your unconscious brain, which makes up most of your brain, right? But that's its number one job is survival, not performance. So that's big concept number one. Understand that. And the reason that's important is because that means anything that's your brain perceives as threatening to your survival is going to impede performance.
100%.
So I mean that's as obvious as an injury. Oh, I just rolled my ankle. Sure, that's an obvious acute injury and it's a threat. What about really bad posture? What about poor breathing mechanics? Those are things we don't think about, but those are things that your brain perceives as threatening, right?
100%.
Yeah. So so then that reduces your ability to produce force if you're in the gym, or your ability to have a good level of endurance when you're running, et cetera, right? Or poor cognitive function when you're sitting at the computer trying to crank out some work for the boss.
Right. I mean, I can see myself even last week sitting on the computer, my neck is twinging up. I'm like, I can't focus.
Yeah. modern lifestyle puts us into some really bad positions, obviously, right? So that's big concept number one. Big concept number two is the nervous system is a governing system of the body. It runs everything. So how well your muscles function, how flexible or inflexible you are, right? How much thought and processing you can put towards your normal cognitive tasks. Your brain runs everything, to include your gut, how well you digest food, your endocrine system, and how your hormones come out. So you guys do a lot of genetic testing, which is really kind of interesting, right? So that's a big tie-in with this as well, because your nervous system runs everything, but then the genetic testing can show that certain systems operate better than most people or average people, but maybe certain of your systems operate less good, right?
Yeah, unfavorable.
Right. So, but understanding that the nervous system runs everything, so we take more than just a biomechanical approach to things. We are always asking, what does the brain think about this? And so a lot of our assess and reassessment process is looking at that and being able to tell whether an exercise, a breathing drill, or a vision drill is actually making you worse. We want to know whether something makes you better or worse right away. And then big concept number 3 is that it's the outputs that you have. So how strong or weak you are, how flexible or how stiff you are, how good movement you have or poor movement you have, if you have pain or if you don't have pain. Those are all outputs from the brain. And
interesting.
Then the brain, basically, we have lots of input, right? So it's an input processing output model. Because we're all sitting here receiving gigabytes of information, right? You're probably not thinking about how your pants or shorts feel on your legs until I say it, right? But that is information that's going to your brain. A lot of visual information. 75% of the sensory input we as human beings get is visual, right? So we're getting all this sensory input, and your brain's processing it continually. So when we have things like pain, as a good example, which is 100% an output from the brain, right? Even though it didn't feel that way, your brain sends pain to the area that hurts. We don't have pain receptors, but we do have threat receptors. Those receptors will send information to the brain. Something's not right here. The brain goes, how dangerous is this really? If it thinks it's dangerous, it's going to send a signal of pain to that area. 21st century brain science and pain science, right?
Same thing with the C-reactive protein we were talking about too. It's like, hey, we're going to inflame the area of the body to make sure it doesn't, leak out or continually get hurt.
Yep.
Exactly, right? So information gets sent and chemicals actually, right? Actually, get sent to areas driven by the nervous system going, we have to do something different here, right?
And that's important too. I think it's really interesting from the coaching perspective. If you understand, well, my athlete's not performing at the level that I expect him to perform at, okay, well, where's the threat? We know we need to look for something that's hindering performance or causing pain, things like that. So I really enjoy every chance I get, Pat, and we'll talk about these concepts and how it relates to the coaching field. And as athletes too, a lot of athletes don't have the coach that's maybe invested the time into the education in some of these pieces. So sometimes you're your own best coach as an athlete. You have to be. But it's interesting to see how these kind of bounce back and forth. And that input processing output model, again, it's as you learn these things and you start to play them over, after action. This game went this way. Okay, well, why? What were we looking at, right? That after action kind of reports really kind of, these are the core questions that you go back to that lets you start to figure out improvement.
Well, I love that you guys are asking the why. Some of the best guests that we've had on here, some of the best people I've met in the fitness industry want to ask why. Well, why'd you get lupus to begin with, right? It's like, well, it's like, well, did you have a vitamin deficiency? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what's really going on here? It could be something simple as vitamin D deficiency. I love that about you guys. You guys are asking the why in a different format. No one's really talking about the nervous system by any means necessary. And it's one of the most important, like you said, governing bodies of your body.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's hard for people to understand what we're talking about. So here, a quick story. I had a gal who came to the clinic. This is several years ago. Still had post-concussive symptoms from a car accident, right? So her biggest issue was she had headaches all the time. They never went away. They just varied in intensity. So I did some initial assessments, saw that her visual system is not working very well, right? And on a hierarchy of importance to the brain from sensory input, vision's number one, right? We didn't survive the eons going sniffing and, saber-tooth tiger, right? Or listening for it. The eyes are what kept us alive. So the unconscious brain is very cued into how well our visual system's working. I could tell hers wasn't working well. I said, let's try some different colors, glasses, and see how these work. So I have a set of, rose color glasses, green, blue, aqua, etc. Put a pair of yellow glasses on her, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! My headache's gone." Now I've never had it be that immediate before or since then. It was pretty cool. Usually I'll do some kind of walking assessment, have her watch her walk, see if the gait changes, do a range of motion assessment, see if her brain likes that color. But that's how powerful the eyes are. Just changing the color of lens you're looking through can change things. I use this for skiing. Orange is my high performance color. So I always use orange glasses for running, orange goggles for skiing, right? But the yellow for her was great. So she could use that. Go on Amazon, $15 pair of yellow glasses, and her headaches were reduced. Now, we gave her other drills and things like that. Here's the other interesting part, though, that related to her nervous system. She came back a couple weeks later. We had been doing some breathing training so that I could get her brain better oxygenated, because that's a big part of how the brain, gets its blood levels and things like that. She came back. She's like, my gut issues don't bother me anymore. And I didn't even know she had them. She had never expressed it because she came in for a concussion. But because she had started to train breathing better, right? And so now she's diaphragmatic breathing, diaphragm's moving down, massaging the guts and things like that. Her gut issues started feeling better.
Interesting. It's almost like you guys are finding the epigenetical factors, like why things are going. It's like you guys are looking at all the environmental factors that really can change things people don't understand, like whether it's breathing, your direct environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's absolutely incredible. So, can you guys give me like a little story about how you guys met and got this thing going? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, really, like I met Pat going into to try to find help for myself. I've got herniations in C3, 4, 6, 7, and degenerative lower back. Knees are jacked up. I mean, I did a pretty good number on myself in college wrestling.
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to find ways to be able to, like, I still want to hike. I still want to ride a motorcycle. I still want to be able to just function in a way that, I don't feel hurt and pain and beat up. And so it just really working with Pat, that's kind of where everything started. And they were the answer. They were the answer that got me results. And I think anybody, when you see results, you're going to stick with that group. And so I think that's been kind of the big thing for me. I just went hiking in New Hampshire with a buddy, and I spent the majority of my prep time working on my breathing and working on my low weight, because while I knew that some of the physical training and the conditioning and all that stuff would help, I also knew if I could control my breathing when I was on the hike, that was going to just kind of put my system in a better state. So we started the hike, and my buddy miscalculated the time and the height and everything, and I'm starting this hike. I'm like, this is not going to be fun at all. And I paused and I said, okay, breathe nasally, exhale more than you inhale, and start hiking now. And I put myself in a different frame of mind with the tools that I've learned working with Pat, and I started hiking great. I felt good, my energy, and without having a lot of conditioning and strength and training, I was able to put my body in a better place, better environment, because I understood how my body worked. And so to me, that's been, the gift of this relationship is I'm learning from them how to handle myself. And what do we call it on the truck on the way up? We're empowering people, really,
Right.
to take their health into their own hands, to understand if I'm not where I'm at, there's a way to get closer to where I want to be.
You can build someone's toolbox, right? Give them tools that they can use the rest of their life. Then,
Yeah. And it didn't hurt that he was a wrestler. That
Right.
usually wrestlers
Yeah.
get along pretty good with each other,
Yeah.
and military guys. So we both had common military background. Actually, we even had a good friend, Eric Everard, that was in one of Pat's units and
Really?
and did his gold certification with us at USA Wrestling. So interesting how sometimes the world can seem very small.
I feel the same way, man. There's some times where that kind of stuff happens. You're like, how did this kind of fall into place like this? Like
Almost like it was meant to be, right?
I
don't.
for me, I do believe this. Like, hey, there's opportunities and relationships. I don't think they did happen for no reason.
Yeah.
I think you got to build on it.
And that's what I love Pat too. I think what drives me to hang out with him is he just wants to help people. I've watched him for 6 years have people come in and out of the clinic, and sometimes they pay and sometimes they don't. And for some people the rate may go up a little bit. For most people it probably doesn't. It stays pretty consistent. It's not about the money. It's about really understanding people, helping them understand themselves, and then be able to take that information and be better. And I think to me that's attractive. Right? It's attractive from a human standpoint. Like I want to be around people that are helping other people, and that's what Pat's been doing.
Well, I would love to come see you guys up there, because I've been hit by one bus, one car.
Oh,
I've had 9 concussions from either wakeboarding, skateboarding, football, what have you.
Right, yeah.
So as soon as you guys were talking, I'm like, I might need to see these guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Well, but what you guys do with the genetic testing, you and I were talking earlier. It's really about, can you find the things early on that are actually the issues, right? Because I'll often use the analogy of peeling the onion back, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes into my clinic, they filled out a big intake form. I'm trying to get as much history as I can. You never find everything out. I had a Marine once who had a bad knee, and we did some drills. I'm like, oh, what's that scar right there? Oh, I forgot to tell you, I got shot. Okay, good to know. So, but when you have the forward-looking outlook like you guys have, like, well, let's see, with your genetics, maybe there's a reason you can't lose weight. Maybe there's a reason you always have pain. Maybe there's a reason you have gut issues. And that's really a cool aspect of it. That's what we do, like from a neurological standpoint and the assessments and things like that. But if you can find things out early, and then you can take care of them, and you can have a better life, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is the analogy I look at preventative health care. I mean, we're kind of all in that kind of similar thing.
100%.
Find out stuff before they happen. It's like, well, let's say I got a leak in my house. and I put a cup underneath the water. It's like that's only prolonging and getting it worse. Next thing you know, 5 weeks later, that turns into a bigger hole, and another hole starts. Right? Again, you're just putting a Band-Aid. We talked about this before. You're putting a Band-Aid on a problem, or you're putting a Band-Aid on a gash. Right? Well, what did the gash come from to begin with?
Yeah.
Right? The next thing you know, your whole roof's falling in.
Yep.
Right? Because you didn't take those preventative measures to make sure that it didn't get worse.
And we just put a new roof on our house this year, so that I know exactly the pain you're
Shout
feeling.
out. No leaks.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I know we're talking about forward-facing the future here. What's the future for Neuro Training and you guys? What can we look forward to here in the future?
So right now we've got our first online course out called Performance Breathing. We started with that course for a couple of different reasons, but it's really a foundational aspect of health and wellness, right? I mean, people go, oh, I can breathe fine. But do you? And not to be arrogant about it, right? Because I had no idea either until I started to learn these things and get a better understanding of it. But breathing is a very foundational aspect. If I had to guess, and now going on over 12 years of working one-on-one with people, I would say 95% of the people who, when I do a breathing assessment on them, have poor breathing mechanics. It's just modern lifestyle pushes into it. I won't go into detail about the breathing, but so that was our first course because it can, one, help you just feel better, two, reduce anxiety and stress and things like that if you breathe properly, but three, if you're an athlete or fitness enthusiast, etc., it can really change how well you perform in anything that requires endurance and stamina.
I don't think can, it will, 100%.
Yeah.
Breathing is everything. When I started doing breathing yoga before football and trying to use my entire chamber of my chest, using sleeping tape on my mouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Changes everything. Your ability to perform. You're sitting on the field longer. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I've been taping my mouth shut for 5 years at night. Yeah.
He had me do that. I was like, I'll start doing it, and then I probably went away from the tape. But I noticed too, like if I don't have the tape, it's almost like a visual cue or a sensory cue, right? And that cueing piece is something we talk about in our courses too. Like, how do you cue these tools to be able to be more effective? So,
and then create habits.
Right, keep those habits in there.
This is where you get the good habits. Yeah.
So and I'll link these amazing guys, your website, your social media, LinkedIn's for you guys in the bio, so everyone can find you. You guys have a location location area of service? Do you guys?
Since we're online, we're pretty much global.
Anywhere then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anywhere people can hear this podcast, they can get access to better breathing right now.
Yeah.
That's perfect. We got everyone from Australia, shout out, Pakistan, India, South America, Nigeria, Tanzania, France, Belgium, UK, Germany, and there's a few others. So like you're going to have a huge audience here.
Awesome.
Right. That's great.
We'll put your information there too. Is there any maybe events you guys are going to be out here soon? Any products you want to promote?
In October, we're getting ready to start a joint venture with one of the national governing bodies in the Olympic movement, and we don't have the contract signed, so we won't throw their name out there, but it's pretty close to both our hearts.
Yeah.
Hashtag coming soon.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Some hype on that. Well, fellas, thank you guys so much for coming in. You guys have an amazing story. I love that you guys are finding out the why, and you guys are taking a new approach, a new perspective with the neuro training, talking about the nervous system and the brain, which is something we don't talk about near enough. So, guys, thank you guys so much, and
thanks, Trip.
make sure you guys go check out Neuro Training ASAP. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, tell your moms, friends, sisters, dogs, cousin, all about us. Every little bit helps.
Dogs can breathe better,
Right
too.
on.
Yeah, dogs are good too. They've got big snoots.
That's right.
But thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Trip.
Thanks.